Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. My Hugh here. Today I wanted to talk about some of the basics of numerology to give you a little understanding of some of the services that I offer and an understanding of numerology. So with what I do, I incorporate your numerology with your astrological chart and put together a report for you to help you better understand yourself. Now, this report can show you some of your strengths, weaknesses, blind spots, and even help you to enhance some of your strengths. If you don't want to get this report for yourself, you can also get it for your children, and I will show you why that is important with one of the charts that I'm going to show you. Now, in your numerology report, there are several numbers, so you use your birthday and your name to come up with your numbers. So you have like a list of numbers, your life path, your personality, your expression, your gifts, your balance numbers. You have your pinnacle numbers, your challenge numbers, your karmic lessons, karmic debts. You also have your personal year number, so that will change every year. And then you have your personal month number, which changes every month. You also have, it's just several numbers in your chart that make up who you are. But right now, I'm just going to talk about your basic birth chart without calculating every number in your chart. So when I say basic chart, I'm talking about the chart that will show you the different planes, and I mean your inner planes, so not like the different dimensions. Although this is tied to the different dimensions, that's not what I'm talking about, because everything is connected, but this is like the different planes. So what I mean by that is I'm sorry, it's kind of backwards, and I don't have any like great graphics to show you, and I'm not an artist, so my bad, y'all. But this just kind of is what it is, and I have to do my best to show you what it is that I'm talking about. So when I say the different planes, I mean you have your mental or your conscious plane, and then you have the higher self or the soul plane, and then you have the basic or physical plane. And why I say these do tie to dimensions, the different dimensions, is because this directly relates to chakras, and your chakras are tied to the different dimensions. So when you're talking about your physical plane, you think about your lower chakras, so your base or root chakra. Then it's your sacral chakra and your solar plexus, and then you go up into your heart chakra, right? That's dead smack in the middle of your chakra, so it's where you become balanced. When you reach your heart chakra is structure and balance and all of that kind of stuff like that. And then after your heart chakra, then after your heart chakra, you have your third eye and your crown chakra, which is all about the mental state, right? So that's why I say these connect to the chakras and the different realms, so it can be thought of as that. So then you have your starting numbers. So these numbers are the beginning of the different planes. It's the doorway, the gateway, the beginning of everything. Then you have your middle plane, which is where you come into balance. So it's dead smack in the middle, the core of everything, where you start to balance out before you make it to the end, where you're going to ascend to essentially the next plane or the next level. So these numbers tend to carry more weight because you are about to ascend to the next plane. right? So after you make it past the 1, the 4, the 7, you ascend to the beginning of your higher self plane and your emotional plane. So the basic or physical plane represents verbal expression, your motivation, body language, patience, materialism, and learning, and really learning through sacrifice, through your experiences. Your soul plane, let's just call it the soul plane because I don't want to confuse you with calling this the higher self plane when this is the mental conscious plane. But when you become emotionally balanced, you are reaching your higher self, because when you think about unconditional love, you can only reach unconditional love when you're getting into your higher self, but I digress. So the soul plane is your spiritual or feeling plane. It represents, or it governs, sensitivity, intuition, quite naturally love, freedom, positive emotion, spiritual independence, and wisdom. And then when you get to your conscious plane, this represents or governs, thinking and your mental state, your memory, how you analyze and rationalize the images that you portray, and your creativity, your ambition, and idealism, right? And then, of course, each number carries its own meaning. So 1 is the beginning of it all. It's the beginning of everything. 1 is like source. Everything started with source. So this is the 1 represents your ego. It's your personality. Every other number is derived from the number 1. So 1 can represent self-control or lack thereof. 2 is about duality. So how you might need you need both to create something. So your dark and your light, or good, bad, however you want to put it. So 2 can be duality, but when we're talking about this chart, let's just stick to its intuition, sensitivity, being fair, how you develop and come to understanding yourself. And if I did say sensitivity, I meant sensitivity. Then 3 is the beginning of your mental capacity, how you govern your thoughts and how you balance out your power and stuff like that. 4 is about structure, being methodical or meticulous, how you organize and take care of tasks, being task oriented, right? 5 is dead smack in the middle. So 5 is rather significant in your chart because it's in the middle of all the numbers. It connects everything to everything. 5 is about your integrity, how you feel, your likes, your dislikes. It's definitely freedom of expression, and then having a balanced personality. Because it's in the middle and it connects all of these, when you are at the 5, it is having a balanced personality. 6 represents creativity and destruction. It can be both depending on where you are. It links your memory to your responsibilities and how you analyze, and it aligns your willpower with your mind, right? 7 is learning. It is the highest level of the physical plane before you make it to the soul plane, like I said, and it represents truth, wisdom, personal experience, and learning through sacrifice. So 7 is essentially sacrifice. And when I say sacrifice, that's sacrificing things in the material world. So, money, how you spend your money, how you deal with relationships and stuff like that. So that's learning through sacrifice. 8 is the highest level of the soul plane. So this is your spiritual wisdom, your active independence, and being detail oriented. And it's like 4 to the second power, right? Because 4 plus 4 is 8. So it's bringing 4 into the soul plane, the higher self. So bringing double the structure, to say the least. Okay. And then 9 is considered, let's just say, the God number. It is the number of completion. Coming into your higher self, it represents your mental activity, your ambition, responsibility, your idealism, having temperance. It is what drives you to understand life itself. And why it's considered a God number is because if you add 9 to any of these other numbers, it goes back to itself. So if you do 1 plus 9 equals 10, well, 1 plus 0 is 1. So it's taking you back to the 1. 2 plus 9 is 11. 1 plus 1 is 2. So it's taking you back to the 2. So 9 makes you reflect back to self. And what is God most about? Knowing thyself, right? And to know thyself is to know that you are a co-creator with God. But again, I don't want to get too deep off into that. I just wanted you to be able to understand the basic chart in numerology. Now, again, this does not include all the other numbers that come into your numerology report, or even your astrological report. This is just a base when you first start to look at your date of birth. And why this chart right here is important is because it can help you determine what is called the arrows of individuality. And I'm just going to put this a little closer so you can see. And I know it's kind of backwards, but just so you can see what I'm saying. And again, my bad about not being this fabulous artist. Okay. So when I'm talking about the arrows of individuality and why I said this would be beneficial for your children. So for this particular chart here, this person was born November 11th, 2008. They have a ruling number of 5, and this person is a Scorpio. Scorpio represents transformation, and his individual gift number is an 11. You do not break down 11 and 22 in numerology. 11 and 22 are considered master numbers. 11 is about spirituality, intuition, sensitivity, being an empath. 22 is that doubled, plus being what they call the master builder, and it has its own meanings and everything. So those are two of some of the powerful numbers in numerology. Okay, so anyway, this person, right, has 1 in his basic chart in his physical plane 4 times. So because it's compounded and it's in there 4 times, this has significance, a significant vibration with him. It can represent him being egotistical, but also and that's when he's in his unhealthy state, right? So being egotistical, it's also they're hard on, these people are hard on themselves, and it's hard for them to express themselves verbally, and people often misunderstand them when they are expressing themselves, and they need to learn how to control their emotions and how to express themselves, because it's hard for them to express themselves and people often misunderstand them. They tend to go within or withdraw and hold stuff in and won't really express, and it's important for them to learn how to temper that and not be the person that withdraws and doesn't share their feelings and emotions, because he has a 2 in his chart. He is balanced, or I don't want to say balanced, but he has balanced sensitivity. He needs time to himself. He needs time in nature, and he has an intuitive ability. Because he has 8 in his chart, he is someone who tends to be structured when he is in his healthy state. He's structured. He has balance when it comes to his activities and what he wants to do in life. But in the negative side, he can be unstable, right? And because he is missing those core numbers that bring about the balance, this is called the arrow of frustration. So he is easily frustrated. He expects certain things from people. He has high expectations, is what I'm trying to say. He expects things from people that sometimes he wouldn't necessarily do himself. So he'll expect for you to do it, but he wouldn't necessarily want to do it himself. And he needs to learn how to allow people to be themselves and stop having expectations, and he won't experience so much disappointment, right? And because he has these expectations, he tends to experience disappointment and loss. And these people with this arrow understand loss probably better than most, because they, in their minds, they have been let down. Then he has the arrow of poor memory. Now, this doesn't mean that he's not intelligent or anything like that. It's just that for him, it's hard to connect the dots. Sometimes it takes him a little longer to grasp a certain concept. So in school, where they are expecting for you to learn things at a certain pace or be at a certain level, with children like this, it's going to take a little more time. And this is why I say it's important for you to know this for your children, because as much as I love psychology, and I've said before, I'm a psych major, psychology is missing you, right? Because psychology is general. It generalizes everybody. It puts everybody into this little box based on characteristics that were found in a group of people, where when you look at numerology and astrology, it is specifically about the individual. So instead of diagnosing a child who has the arrow of poor memory with a mental handicap or a slow learner or whatever it is that you want to call these children, if you learn about how they were coded when they came into this world, you realize there's nothing wrong with them. They don't have a disability. They're not slow. They just learn different. So they are in need of adults with a little more patience, and how it takes them time to learn and connect the dots. He also has the arrow of skepticism, and I know you can't really see that, but it's there. He has the arrow of skepticism. So the arrow of skepticism is somebody who questions everything, and they need proof. They need to test it themselves. And until they test it themselves, they're not going to believe it. They ain't going to believe what you're saying. And when they do test it for themselves and they find it to be true, they tend to become dogmatic. It's hard to get them to change their mind. So that can tend to be a weak spot for him. So that's one chart, right? And then let's look at a chart of somebody who was born 11/30/1979. Now, why I wanted to show you this chart is because this person has numbers that are isolated. There's nothing connecting this person's ones to the soul plane, or even to the conscious plane, the mental plane. So because they are isolated, these tend to have some pitfalls. Let's just call them pitfalls, negative and positive. So 3 is, intelligence, mental capacity. These people they are indeed highly intelligent, but they tend to also be paranoid, and I don't want to say arrogant, but in their own mind, they are a legend. So they're legends in their own mind. They think and they know that they are intelligent. So, and how they can teach the world. So to them, they are a legend. And then you have to consider that this person has a gift number of 3. So they have 3 in their chart, and so this is a 3 vibrates with them a whole lot. Then they have the 1 compounded, and because it's separate, this person has a tendency to feel isolated and has a hard time expressing feelings. They can come off as unreliable because they will often commit to something, but they don't follow through with it. And the reason for that somewhat is because they stay in their head. They're always thinking and, feeling away. So they need to come out of their head. Then with the 7, again, 7 is about sacrifice. With the 7 being isolated, the problem with that in this chart is because people with an isolated 7 tend to have to learn the same lesson over and over again until they repeat it so much that it finally reaches the mental plane, till it finally hits home that they need to stop learning this lesson. So an isolated 7 is somebody who, like I said, learns the same lesson over and over again. An isolated 9. Now keep in mind, there are positive aspects to this, and you can always be helped out with this, and I specialize in helping you work through these types of blind spots. A person with an isolated 9, they are impractical in their idealism, and they have unrequited ambitions, so they don't really fully visualize their dreams. They have dreams, but they don't work to the point of manifesting them, right? So they really have to work hard at making sure they're not just in their heads and they bring their visions to life. Now, this person has the arrow of hypersensitivity because they are missing the numbers of the soul plane. Doesn't mean they don't have a soul by any means. It means that so people tend to take advantage of people with this arrow. They are easily hurt and they are easily offended. So they have to be mindful of these types of emotions and learn how to balance them out. And this person also has the arrow of frustration, so expecting more from others than maybe what they are willing to give, and experiencing frustration due to feelings of being let down. So, this stuff is kind of compounded in this chart, but you have to take into consideration that this person is a Sagittarius, so they are optimistic, right? And it's a lot more to this chart than that. And then this person has a ruling number of 22, so spirituality, master builder here too, with a higher task to perform certain things to change the world, I'll say. So all of that plays a role with this person's chart. Then you have a chart of someone who was born 5/7/53. Why this chart is important, why I want to show it to you, because when you look at these charts compared, right, it looks like these numbers are isolated, but they are not. Where these are isolated, these numbers aren't isolated because you have the 5 dead smack in the middle. So the 5 is connecting the dots here. And this person has the arrow of determination and the arrow of spirituality. This person is a Taurus, so they're firm. They have a gift number of 7. it's a little different. It has some of the same meanings as learning through sacrifice, but because it's a gift, it's also a little different meaning to where it falls in a chart, and that is something that I would explain when, I'm talking about the report. And this person also has a ruling number of 3, again talked about in the report. This person here, who was born 5/28/2000, has the arrow of emotional balance, right? Because they have this right here in the middle, but they have the arrow of poor memory. Now, where this differs from the person whose birthday, the first person, where he has an arrow of poor memory, his is more about connecting the dots and all of that. Where this person, hers is more where she is easily distracted. You know, if you've ever seen the movie Up, where the dogs will go squirrel, yeah, that's her. She's easily distracted, so that's where her poor memory comes in. And then the arrow of disorder, so she needs to learn how to be more organized, how to be more grounded, blah blah blah, stuff like that. Then you have a person who doesn't have any arrows of individuality. Now, this doesn't make them any less important. It just means that this person is a little more, she's more adaptable, more easygoing, but at the same time, she needs to learn how to be more assertive, right? And she has a 7 isolated over here, so she needs to, maybe her lesson that she constantly needs to learn is how to be more assertive. And she is an Aquarius, right? So Aquarius is an intelligent person and all about being in the head. She has a ruling number of 9 and a gifted number of 8. So I don't want to get into that because, again, I don't want to make this video super duper long. Then you have this person whose birthday is 3/7/2000 with a ruling number of 3. It's a Pisces. Pisces, or they deal in emotions, a gift number of 7. Then he has the arrow of procrastination, right? The frustration arrow is there, but I just wanted to show you, like, there are a lot of different arrows, but he has the arrow of procrastination, and naturally that means he needs to learn how to be about getting stuff done, focus, and blah blah blah. So try to hurry up and give you an understanding of numerology without making the video super long, and help you to understand why it's important for you to even understand this for your babies, because it can help you with what might be going on with them in school and not allow them to be diagnosed with some disorder that they don't really have. It's just in their makeup to be a certain way, because when you think of in terms of personality and behavior, well, personality is the core of who you are. It's going to always be who you are, and behavior is based on your experiences. So your behaviors will change, but your personality won't. So when you have this person with a certain personality, like the first little fella, his behavior can change with experience. So the more that he experiences and it's balanced out with him, the better he'll get about getting things done and learning how to connect the dots. And also, just even with you knowing some of your blind spots. So for me, I have the arrow of frustration in my chart as well. And to say that I felt like I was somebody who expected more of people than what I was willing to give, absolutely not. Like, no, I would have never said that about myself. But when I really think back, before I went through like an ego death, and when I was younger, and I really think about it, yeah, I did have expectations of people. And even now, sometimes I do find that I expect for people to be able to connect the dots and think on their toes, and that's not necessarily everybody. So that's something that I know I need to keep under wraps. So that arrow of frustration is expressed differently in me than what it might be expressed in somebody else. All of these arrows, or even though you have it, it's expressed differently than it would be for somebody else, because your numbers, your astrology, and all of that stuff adds up to something completely different. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what numerology can offer you. And that's not all I do. I do have more services, but because this is one of the biggest ones that I feel is necessary to help you understand your power and who you are, I wanted to really talk about that one. I will have information in the description box. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe.